Hello there, ladies. I'm Erica Chafkin, the founder and chief empowerment officer of the website datewithpower.com, where you can find powerful, practical solutions to your biggest dating struggles. One thing I've found that many women struggle with is how to be assertive and stand up for themselves in relationships, especially when their partners do or say something hurtful. If you're the type of person who puts up with crap from the men you date because you don't want to make waves, or you're afraid that if you call him out on his hurtful behavior, he'll get upset and leave, then you're in the right place. Because today, I'm going to teach you how to set boundaries in your relationship without sounding needy, whiny, or demanding. You'll learn how to voice your needs and feelings in a way that'll actually bring him closer to you, rather than driving him away. Normally, when a man does or says something that's hurtful, we tend to respond in one of two ways. We either lash out at him or we say nothing at all. Unfortunately, neither of these strategies are particularly effective, nor do they produce desirable results in our relationships. As you probably already know, lashing out typically entails doing things like speaking to him in a harsh, angry tone of voice, yelling and screaming at him, calling him names, verbally attacking his character, such as saying things like, "You're an idiot." Not surprisingly, lashing out causes your partner to get defensive and withdraw. It's an extremely ineffective strategy for dealing with conflict. Now, I know we're all human and we all lash out from time to time, especially when we're stressed to the max and someone pushes our buttons hard enough. But the important thing is to not make lashing out your default mode of responding to conflict. Saying nothing, on the other hand, is the exact opposite of lashing out, but it's just as ineffective a strategy when it comes to handling conflict. Women who choose to say nothing mistakenly believe that it's better to avoid conflict than face it head on. They're afraid that if they speak up and make their feelings known, their partner will get angry and walk away. So instead, they say nothing at all and pretend to be happy on the outside, even though they're seething with anger and resentment on the inside. Needless to say, this strategy never leads to the happy, fulfilling relationship you desire. In some ways, saying nothing is even worse than lashing out for two main reasons. First, when you allow your partner to treat you like crap, he'll lose respect for you. Because what you need to realize is that men have little or no respect for women who don't respect themselves. Every time you let your partner disrespect you, you disrespect yourself. Every time you allow him to mistreat and emotionally abuse you, you disrespect yourself. Every time you put up with his rude, insensitive words and behavior, you disrespect yourself. You might think that your willingness to put up with his undesirable behavior would make you more appealing in his eyes, but in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. Contrary to what you might believe, men who are mature and relationship-minded are not looking for a female doormat they can trample on and walk all over. Although this might sound counterintuitive, men actually like and respect women who are able to set boundaries around how they like to be treated and what they will and won't put up with in a relationship. When you have the courage to set boundaries, this shows your partner that you're a classy lady with high standards and a great deal of self-respect. Setting boundaries sends a powerful message that if your partner is unable to treat you with the respect you deserve, then he won't stand a chance. After all, no self-respecting woman allows herself to be treated like crap. The second reason why saying nothing is so destructive is because when you keep all your anger bottled up inside, your partner won't know that he did anything wrong. You're essentially giving him the green light to keep engaging in the same hurtful behavior over and over again. What's even worse is that all your repressed anger and bitterness will grow stronger with time. You'll eventually start to resent him. As your pent-up anger and resentment continues to fester, you'll resort to passive-aggressive tactics to get back at him for hurting you. Perhaps you'll act moody or aloof in his presence, or you'll pick petty fights over every little thing he does wrong. In the meantime, he'll have no idea what the heck is going on. Since you never told him what he did wrong, he'll be clueless as to why you're suddenly acting so differently around him. All he'll keep thinking is, why is she acting so weird? Whatever happened to the fun, cool woman she used to be? The bottom line is, until you finally work up the guts to tell him what's on your mind, the quality of your relationship will continue to suffer. By saying nothing, you deprive both yourself and your partner of the opportunity to experience a healthy, satisfying relationship together. So now you're probably wondering, if lashing out puts him on the defensive and saying nothing merely perpetuates his undesirable behavior, then what are you supposed to do when he does something that bothers you? How do you communicate your negative feelings to him in a way that doesn't make you sound whiny or bitchy? The answer is to give him constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is much gentler than lashing out, but still gets the point across that you're upset. It's an extremely effective technique for setting boundaries in any relationship, whether it's with your partner, family, friends, or coworkers. However, since we're focusing on dating here, all the examples I'm going to provide will be in the context of romantic relationships. So how do you give your partner constructive feedback? Simply tell him how you're feeling and explain why his words and actions made you feel that way. Constructive feedback sounds something like this. I felt blank when you did or said blank because blank. Or, when you did or said blank, I felt blank because blank. Here's an example of what constructive feedback sounds like when your partner shows up half an hour late for your date without calling to let you know. I felt really worried when you showed up a half hour late because I wasn't sure if something bad had happened to you along the way. Next time you're running late, please just give me a call to let me know you'll be delayed. That way I'll know when to expect you. You got to admit, that sounds a heck of a lot better than lashing out and saying something like, "Where the hell have you been all this time? You're so inconsiderate for not calling to let me know you'll be late. You obviously don't give a damn about me or my feelings." Quite a big difference there, right? I'm sure he'd respond much more favorably to the first comment than the second. There are actually 6 steps for giving someone effective constructive feedback. By following these 6 steps, your constructive feedback is more likely to be well received and elicit a favorable response from your partner. Step 1 is to make sure the timing is right. Ideally, it's best to give him constructive feedback right when the hurtful behavior occurs. However, if tensions are high and you're both all fired up, then it's best to take some time to cool off first before saying anything. Otherwise, you might end up doing or saying something you regret. Before telling him what's on your mind, it's important to gauge how he's feeling. If he seems to be in a bad mood or is in the middle of doing something, try to hold off on confronting him until his mood has improved or he's no longer distracted. That way, he'll be more receptive to hearing what's on your mind. So how do you know if it's a good time to talk to him? Just ask him. However, avoid using the dreaded phrase, "we need to talk," because that will surely send him running for the hills. Instead, say something less confrontational like, "Hey, I've got something I want to talk to you about. Is this a good time?" If he says yes, then proceed to step 2. If he says no, ask him when he'll be available to talk. In this way, you're inviting him to have a conversation with you rather than just forcing it upon him. Step 2 is to be empathic. Whenever possible, start out by acknowledging the circumstances that might have contributed to his wrongful behavior. This helps soften the impact of the constructive feedback you're about to give him. This step is important because the vast majority of the time, your partner never intended to hurt you. He probably just used poor judgment and never anticipated that his actions would hurt you. Step 3 is to deliver your constructive feedback. Calmly tell him how his behavior made you feel and why you're bothered by it. If there's something specific he can do to remedy the situation, tell him. Otherwise, just make your feelings known and see how he responds. Once I've gone through all 6 steps, I'll give you more examples of what constructive feedback sounds like in various real-life dating situations. Step 4 is to give him a chance to respond. Many people get so caught up rambling on and on about what their partner did wrong and how much he hurt their feelings that they never even give the poor guy a chance to respond to what they're saying. Successful communication is a two-way street. After delivering your constructive feedback, you've got to stop talking and give him a chance to respond. Step 5 is to see how he responds to your constructive feedback. The way he responds will speak volumes about his character. If he's a sincere, emotionally mature guy, he'll likely apologize for what he did wrong and he'll try his hardest to make things better. This might mean tweaking his behavior a bit, or it might mean working together as a couple to find a win-win solution that pleases you both. If, however, you're dating an immature, self-centered type of guy, he'll probably react to your constructive feedback with anger, hostility, and defensiveness. In a case like that, you've got to ask yourself, do I really want to continue dating someone who shows little or no regard for my hurt feelings? If you want to be an empowered dater, the answer to that question should be a resounding no. Step 6 is to hold him accountable. Now that you've told him your needs and feelings, you gotta make sure he respects them going forward. For example, if he promises to call you whenever he's running late, see if he actually calls the next time he's delayed. If he vows to change his behavior, make sure he actually follows through on it. If he's a mature, responsible man, he'll keep his promises and honor his words. But if he's a self-centered, immature person, he might tell you what you want to hear, but his actions won't be aligned with his words. When it comes to dating, always remember that actions speak louder than words. So those are the 6 steps to delivering effective constructive feedback. Now I want to give you some examples of how constructive feedback can be used in a variety of real-life dating situations, and you'll see how it compares to lashing out when you're upset. In example number 1, you're complaining to your partner that he's not doing his fair share when it comes to helping you clean up after dinner. Here's the lashing out version of this scenario. Why don't you get off your lazy ass and help me clean up from dinner, which, by the way, I worked very hard to prepare. I'm sick and tired of doing everything around here. As you can see, it's very harsh and demeaning towards your partner. Now compare this to the constructive feedback approach. Honey, I know you had a really long, stressful day at work, but I'm feeling really exhausted too, so I'd be grateful if you could please give me a hand with doing the dishes. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were the guy, I'd be way more inclined to help out with the dishes after hearing the constructive feedback, as opposed to the lashing out spiel. Here's another example of lashing out versus giving someone constructive feedback. Lashing out sounds something like this. I can't believe you chose to hang out with your buddies at a bar instead of spending your Saturday afternoon with me and my parents who came in from out of town to visit. I thought you loved me and cared about me and my family, but I guess I was wrong. Now, compare that to delivering the same message, except this time with constructive feedback. I know you enjoy hanging out with your buddies at the bar, but I feel really hurt that you chose to spend your afternoon with them instead of with me and my parents. They only come to visit a few times a year, and they were looking forward to seeing you. I'm really disappointed that you didn't join us. Notice how with constructive feedback, you're acknowledging and affirming your partner's desire to hang out with his friends, while also expressing your disappointment about what he did. You're making it clear that you're upset without being cruel or insulting. That'll make him more likely to apologize and make amends for what he did wrong. Here's a third example. In this scenario, you discover that your boyfriend is still active on Match.com despite telling you that he wants to date you exclusively. If you lashed out at him, you'd probably say something like this. You're such a liar. You told me you wanted to date me exclusively, but here you are, still active on Match, carrying on with God knows how many other women out there. You obviously can't be trusted, so you know what? I'm done. This relationship is over." Now compare this to constructive feedback. I know we had talked about seeing each other exclusively, so today when I went on Match to hide my profile and cancel my membership, I was quite hurt and taken aback when I saw that your profile was still up there and it showed you were active within 24 hours. Have things changed? Notice that with constructive feedback, you're not accusing him of cheating like you did in the lashing out scenario. Instead, you're simply telling him what you observed online and then giving him a chance to explain himself first before making any accusations. In example number 4, you're confronting your partner about being more distant and withdrawn from you lately. Here's how it sounds from a lashing out perspective. "What the hell is going on with you lately? You're so distant and withdrawn. I can't stand being with you when you're like this. Do you not have feelings for me anymore? Have you found someone else? Tell me what the hell is going on." Now, contrast this to giving him constructive feedback about the same issue. "I know there's a lot going on in your life right now, but I'm feeling concerned and worried because you seem to be more distant with me lately. I feel like you're pulling away and I don't understand why. I don't know if I did or said something to upset you, or if it's because of something going on outside of our relationship, but whatever it is, I'd love for you to share what's on your mind." Now, if I were that guy, I'd sure as heck be more likely to open up to you after hearing your constructive feedback as opposed to being lashed out at. Here's one more example. In this example, you're confronting your partner about how much it hurts when he comes home in a foul mood and takes out all his anger on you. Here's the lashing out version of this scenario. "I'm sick and tired of you taking all your job-related stress out on me. After everything I do for you, the least you could do is to be polite and civil to me when you come home from work." Now, compare that to giving him constructive feedback. "I know you're under a lot of stress at work, but when you come home in a bad mood and lash out at me, it makes me feel hurt and scared. I really want to be there for you and support you, but it's very hard for me to do that when you're yelling and screaming at me. I just want us to be able to talk to one another without engaging in any angry rants. That way, you can get whatever is bothering you off your chest, and I'll be right there by your side to listen and support you. How does that sound to you?" All I could say is, if I were the guy, I'd certainly respond a lot more favorably to the constructive feedback than being lashed out at. In all these examples, can you see the difference between lashing out and giving constructive feedback? Whereas lashing out is all about blaming and shaming your partner, constructive feedback is all about you and your feelings. The main goal of constructive feedback is to point out how his behavior impacted you and hurt your feelings, not to attack his character and destroy his dignity. When you refrain from blaming him, insulting him, and making cruel derogatory remarks and accusations, he'll be much more inclined to make amends for whatever he did wrong, so there'll be no unresolved hard feelings. Constructive feedback is a great tool for communicating your feelings and setting boundaries, but it does have one major caveat. It's only effective if you're calm enough to clearly explain to your partner how his behavior made you feel, why it was hurtful, and what, if anything, he can do differently to make amends. But what about those times when you're both really angry and tensions are flaring and he's saying all sorts of harsh things that really set you off? Chances are, during times like these, you're not going to be calm and clear-headed enough to launch into a whole spiel about what he did wrong and how he made you feel. What you need to do in these types of heated situations is to use specific words and phrases that I refer to as instant boundary setters, because they literally diffuse the anger and tension between you and your partner in a matter of seconds. A few of my favorite instant boundary setting phrases are, "Ouch, that really hurt," Or you can just say ouch by itself, since that word conveys a powerful message of hurt and pain. Another one I really like is, I know you're really angry and upset right now, but what you just said really hurt me. Although these phrases are very short, they send a strong, powerful message to your partner that whatever he just said was extremely hurtful. Chances are, if he hears you say one of these phrases, he'll back off and soften his tone a little so that tensions will decrease. I'll give you an example of how you can use these boundary-setting phrases in a real-life conversation. Suppose you and your partner are arguing and he says something you don't quite understand. You ask him to clarify, but instead of doing so, he totally insults your intelligence by saying, "It seems that what I'm trying to tell you is too much for your little pea-sized brain to comprehend. I can't believe how stupid you are." At that moment, you have three choices. 1, you can say nothing and let him get away with insulting your intelligence, which of course accomplishes nothing. Or 2, you can lash out and return the insult, which also accomplishes nothing and would probably make the situation even worse. Or 3, you can be an empowered dater and immediately put your foot down and set a boundary right then and there by using one of the phrases I just mentioned. If you go with option 3, he'll realize that what he just said was terribly hurtful and insulting, unless of course there's something fundamentally wrong with his intelligence. If he's got any semblance of character, he'll immediately back down and apologize for his harsh words. I remember what Teresa Byrne, an acclaimed self-defense instructor, author, and speaker once said about how we all need to keep a boundary in our back pocket that we could easily pull out and use the moment we get triggered by our partner's hurtful words and actions. These instant boundary setting phrases are perfect examples of what Teresa Byrne was referring to. The beauty of these phrases is that they're short, simple, and easy to remember, while delivering an extremely powerful message. Whenever you use them, you're basically telling your partner in a firm, tactful way that, hey, you really hurt me and I'm not going to stand for it. You're effectively setting a boundary without being rude or bitchy towards him. Then later on, after things have calmed down, you can always give him constructive feedback if necessary. So that just about sums up everything I want to say about how to effectively set boundaries in a relationship. I know I covered a lot of information here, so I want to give you a quick recap of the key takeaways of this presentation. When your partner does or says something hurtful, don't call him names or attack his character. Instead, give him constructive feedback. Tell him how his behavior impacted you and why it was hurtful. And if tensions are high, use instant boundary setting phrases such as, "Ouch, that really hurt." That'll help diffuse the anger between you and your partner in the heat of the moment. Doing all of these things will make him more likely to apologize and make amends for whatever he did wrong and bring him closer to you. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you with my contact information in case you want to connect with me further after this video is over. You can always reach me via email at datewithpower@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, datewithpower.com, where you can subscribe to the Date with Power community and get a free report on 5 ways to become irresistible to men. And lastly, if you're struggling in your love life and would like to get some one-on-one help and support that's tailored to your own unique dating situation and needs, please either email me or go to www.datewithpower.com/private-coaching, where you can find out more information about my private coaching services. You can find links to all these resources in the notes below this video, so feel free to check them out if you're interested. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with any other ladies you know of who are having trouble standing up for themselves in relationships. I wish you a wonderful day ahead, and remember, whenever you date, always remember to date with power.